Hello, Mario Barth here again, Intense Tattooing. Asked to answer a couple more questions which continuously come up. So I would like to get a little bit into the detail with all the different lining colors which are out there and the lining blacks and what's the difference between them and what you should use for lining and what you shouldn't use. The first part is like, of course, it's an artist's choice, right? It's like there's some very advanced artists who can line with any black, regardless what it is. You just need to choose the right grouping for the needles. Like the smaller the needle, like if you go into 5s, 3s, and single needle, I mean, I always say that nobody should be allowed to use a single needle besides Jack Rudy, right? We know that. But it's just an old saying. So, but the main part is like the smaller the needle, the thinner the color, right? Like, so if you have the color needs to be a little faster. If the color is thicker, like if you take like a super black or a Zulu Ape, which is not meant for lining, by the way, at all, you know, besides if you use a large group. If you go like, let's say 9, 12, so you go in that direction, 14 liners, which are rarely used today, that's when you can use that color because it's in thicker consistency. So when the color is thicker, you take a bigger group of needle, you pull the line. You have to be very slow. If you take a thicker color and you take it with the smaller group, you're gonna cut through it and the color is gonna explode on you and you're gonna get those shades underneath where they turn into blue. You also have to watch that really with if you have a color which is too thin and then you have a small needle and the color is going to run out. Okay, so that has something to do with the technique you use, not specifically with the lining color or with the product you're using. That's your technique, your capability of finding the right depth and the right angle to go in so that the color doesn't blow out. So what I'm talking about right now is going to be the different issues we're having, or the different what I'm talking right now is the different colors we have for that. There's Formula 23, the lining version of it, created by BJ Petz, incredible like lettering artist. You know, he needs to have something that stays long on the needle. You can make long lines and really like this and move him around. So I think that's what that color is really meant to be, to make some long strokes, right? Like if you have a 3, a tight 3, and you want to do a line and you want to write like an S, right, with some scrolls, some starting, like, and you write it real long, you go like this and you put like some extra swings on it. That's where Formula 23 is really, really great. It's a fast running color, so your machine can run quick. It doesn't restrict you, right? Like on some rotaries, regardless which brand they are, it's a little bit tricky because you have to slow your hand movement down, so the color can't be too fast, and then you know you pump it in too much. So I think Formula 23 gives you that opportunity to really be smooth and be free moving around, you know. And if you watch BJ's video, you will see that he explains that very well, and you can see how great this actually works. Lining black, it's an all-around lining black, which means it's similar to some old Pelican cooked down version. Like in the old days we used the Pelican ink. If you're old timers, you're gonna know about it. It's like we put it on the stove and we let it simmer, so we cook down a third of it so it becomes a little thicker. It's not that thin running color and then it turns bluish. That's the lining black, what we recreated approximately with the same consistency than that Pelican black. There's also all the different lining colors which we have, like red, red light, green, brown, dark. Why we're doing this is like because the color, when you're pumping color, it's from higher consistency, it's a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier, and it's very difficult to line with because the needle runs fast. It's a small needle, and when it comes in and out, right, it goes like this approximately, and then in a slow motion, and then the color has to hold on to the needle, and there's more concentrated pigment in the color, so they're a little bit larger particles than the black. And what happens is like that the needle is too small to really grab onto those particles and push them into the skin. So the puncture what you're actually creating is too small to get enough color pigment in there. from the particle size itself. So that's the reason why we created the lining series, and we made those particles smaller, and the colors are thinner and also a little bit faster on the needle, so you can use that. They are not to be used though for solid coloring. You can't really get a really straight solid area, because the colors are translucent, and they're made for a purpose that way. Because if you want to have an area where you do, let's say, a red area, and you want to have the line, you want to line that area with red first, we wanted to make sure that the color what you're going to lay over it is going to be able to cover that area up. So you can use a 3-needle liner or a 5-needle liner, a tight liner, to make that line. Otherwise you would have to use a 14 round, and you have this big line, and you need to match it, and it could be raising up. So that's what they're made for. Those are the differences. There's also a big other set. What we have is the black Sumy. The biggest difference on those colors is that they have a velvety shine to it, right? Sumy is a color which is almost like a charcoal, right? It has a little satin shine to it when it heals. So it's not really a true black. It's a little bit a couple shades down and a little bit more anthracite, more almost like a dark charcoal gray black. So it's like if you see some really hot cars have that something, you look at them in the evening, they're black, and when you look at them in the sunlight, they have that off satin shade. So that's all the Sumy colors, regardless which one you use. I would not recommend to take the big colors like the Zulu Upper Black and the Super Black and to break it down and make a lining version of it, because they're just too strong sometimes. There's like it's a different way if you use a black and you make the old school lining to it. What basically happens is the black lines are so strong and so vivid that they actually distract from your tattoo. So that's the reason why you want to have a lining color which is a little bit tuned down, that it's not so aggressive, and you can really work more with shades, right? When you look out into nature, there's no lines. A tree doesn't have a line, a house doesn't have a line. They have edges, and those edges are created with different shades. So you want to use a support line, then you want to be a little bit soft on that. So hopefully that answered some of your questions. If you have more questions, just send them over. Let us know. I try to give you as easy as possible answers with metaphors so you really understand it. Let's make the industry better. Peace. Keep on buzzing.